Good morning, invisible friends. My name is Reynaldo Aguiar. My full name is Reynaldo J. Aguiar Marcano, and I'm located at the 26714 Valleyside Drive, Katy, Texas 77494. I'm recording this video as part of the civic campaign that I'm advancing, titled Bring Diosdado to Justice, Diosdado Cabello. Bring Diosdado Cabello to the US. And today is July 17th, 2025, and it's about 8:20 a.m. Central Time. So today I have very interesting updates. What a time to be alive, brother. So where to begin? So usually I try to give updates first, and then at the end, if there's an insight that I see that could be useful, I try to give that at the end. But in this video, I'm gonna reverse that order because I think it would make more sense. Okay. So I would like to begin by recalling a post that I created maybe like a year ago. It was a long time ago, and I tried to find it, but I couldn't find it. It's something I wrote, and I don't recall the exact wording. I'll try to find it, but the gist of it was that I was reflecting on. I mean, at the time, I didn't have the geo index. It was more than a year ago. I didn't have the geo index yet, but I knew that I was under heavy surveillance and that it was systematized. I knew that there was an app coordinating the surveillance, but I didn't at that point have the index yet. So I was reflecting on, I think, if I recall correctly, the post, I was reflecting on software engineering as a form of art, because I really see it that way. I love what I do. I don't know. I cannot even put it into words what I feel when I write software or when I design systems. It feels to me like a form of art, really. And I was basically pleading in that post to whoever makes those decisions within the government to prioritize education on software engineering at a very early age. I was saying something like kids at pre-K should be already writing software, even before they know how to actually write words. I was making that point, and I was saying something like, the thought was that the world, I think, needs more artists and less people like Travis Kalanick and Elon Musk, who are just stealing what other people create. So what real artists create. So that was the thought. And you're going to see in a second why I say this. I mean, why I'm remembering this right now. The other thought that I want to recall was something more recent, maybe a month ago. In one of these videos that I record, I said something like, it was a suggestion I was offering to authorities, to the FBI. And I was saying, if you want to disentangle this network, my suggestion would be to put together a multifaceted team of people from the FBI and people from Google search specifically. And I say that because I see the commonalities on the techniques of surveillance in how the system is designed. I recognize a lot of things that remind me of Google search. And I worked there for 9 years, almost 10 years. And before that, I worked at Yahoo Search. I've been working in search end to end, probably, I don't know, 20 years now. So the thought was that to solve this puzzle, a team of people from the FBI or the NSA or something like that, plus a team of people from Google is needed. And it's funny because, I mean, I'm recalling all this because today because last night, and I'm sorry, I apologize for the face, just that I woke up at 3 a.m. to scan some neighborhoods that I wanted to scan yesterday, but I couldn't. I started yesterday, but I couldn't finish because they sent a man to harass me and to threaten me. So I had to stop, safety first. I had to stop yesterday, but I continued early, very early this morning. I think it was like 3:30 a.m. when I left the house. So I was doing that in the early morning. So anyhow, today, after I did that, I could verify, and I can tell you right now that these people, I mean, the architects of this system of cars, I'm talking specifically about the cars. So this network of cars being used as surveillance nodes and mobile nodes for the mesh network, this system was designed by Googlers, or at least they helped in a big way in designing that, and specifically people from search and from Muppet, from the Muppet team at Google, which I've said before in a post. I sort of like when I noticed that they encode things into the street numbers if you read them right to left, and I speculated that it could be somebody from the Muppet team at Google Search that has a cultural background from an Arabic country because of that way of thinking of reading right to left, right? So I had that suspicion, but with what I saw today, it's confirmed. Like, I'm pretty sure that some people, I think it's more than one person, and I think they're from Google Search specifically. And be careful if it's not Michael Schubert. It's possible, right, that Michael was working on this on the technical side of things. Because I see things, and I mentioned this before, like when you see something, like if you know the creator of the thing, when you see the creation, you can recognize the traits of the creator in the creation. And I see things that remind me of Michael Schubert. So that's a speculation, of course. I didn't see him writing the code, but if it's not Michael, it's somebody like Michael at that level. Well, or Jeff Dean or his team at Google, like I can see, right, how it works. So anyhow, I'm gonna give you the backstory why I'm saying all this, okay? And here I'm gonna give a little bit more information than I gave yesterday because I think this informant is definitely very good. So what happened was this informant, the same informant that told me about David Molero, the same informant that told me about the legal strategy of Cesaro Cabello with the Bartender 2.0 and Gillian Walsh writing an affidavit or something along those lines. And he had told me other things which are documented in the recordings. This same informant has been helping me in a big way. So this informant put me in contact with people that now that I can communicate freely because I've developed my own communication network, basically, I had to go to that extent to be able to evade their surveillance. I mean, their electronic surveillance on my communications. Now that I can send messages and receive messages without them intercepting them, some time ago I asked him if he would consider putting me in contact with, because he's pretty high up, like by the things that he's told me, and I can see that he's close to Diosdado Cabello. And I don't know his real identity, of course, but judging by the things that he has told me, and that, like, for example, what I checked out this morning, it's undoubtable that he's close to Cabello. Anyhow, I asked him if he would consider putting me in contact with low-level agents in Katy. I didn't want somebody high up because that people could have like loyalty ties. And let me tell you what is the problem that I was trying to solve with that. So I've been reading about history, basically, about cases in which investigative agencies have successfully disassembled a criminal enterprise, not this big, but big. And what I saw, the commonality was that, and I don't know, this probably is a question for a historian. I don't know. Like I don't know the answer to this, but from what I've read, right, I tried to see what was the pattern in the successful cases. It seemed to me, again, a speculation, but it seemed like the pattern was that the team that fought that battle had a combination of technical skills in whatever the enterprise was doing. So if the enterprise was robbing banks, so this team had experts in banks and how the banks work and people that worked in a bank. And they also had a team of analysts that could apply engineering basically to the problem. So what I realized was that I have only one of those two things. I have only the technical expertise, but I don't know where to apply it because I've never operated in this network, in this criminal enterprise. So for example, to give you a quick example, I don't know exactly where to focus my attention. So that's why I reached out for help to this informant. And I realized that he doesn't have all the information. Like he doesn't know, like I tried to quiz him. Like I tried to see if he would know which are the interesting neighborhoods, which I know which they are because I have the database. So I can see which are the neighborhoods. So I was like seeing if he would give me the correct answers. But he doesn't know. Like he doesn't know. He doesn't have that level of detail on the ground. Probably because he's high up. He doesn't have, I imagine, Diosdado Cabello doesn't know the names of the agents in front of my house. Like he doesn't have that level of visibility because he's too high up in the criminal organization. Something like that. So that's why I asked him if he could put me in contact with people that could flip, that he would think that would collaborate with me, that were lower level, because I wanted to have that ground visibility to combine it with my technology. And we did that. And what happened then was that, and I have to be honest here, like I don't know their names. And we got to an agreement, right? I offered them, because the other thing I saw while I was reading these cases, was that the big successes seem to come from when the FBI, for example, is able to flip agents from the criminal organization. And the way they flip them, from what I read, is by giving them incentives, like lower sentences or reduced sentences, or the special treatment when they have to go to court. I don't know. I don't know exactly. I've never seen the unsealed documents. I only saw what's public. Anyhow, then I started thinking, okay, so how can I motivate these agents? Because I cannot offer them anything. So what I offered them was a stock in Key Opinion Leaders. I offer each one of them 1% of stock. If I win this and the company goes eventually public, I'll give them 1% of stock to each one. So I got 5 of them this way, okay, here in Katy. And what I asked them to do in return, of course, they're so low level, right, in the organization that they don't have information. I mean, I know more than them. But they give me something that is very useful, because they have them driving around, them and their wives. They have them driving around all day. So I got them to install cameras on their wives' vehicles while they have them working, right? Intercepting me, basically. So anyhow, I set up a system where they upload this footage, okay? And I'm not gonna give much detail of how I do it because of course they could be traced, right? But it's a system that is not on par with my system, because my system has GPS locations and it can do data analysis and the resolution of the cameras. The cameras are mounted outside. I have the reflectors. I got better lighting. So there's a lot of things that are much better in my system and these people only have one camera in each one of the vehicles. So, but anyhow, because they're driving around and I'm getting that footage, I was able to pick up systematically a few things from that footage, okay? And this is where things got interesting. So there's a lot of statistical anomalies that, because like the problem I'm also solving with this is that my car is too visible for them. Like, I mean, all of them are chasing my car all day. So wherever I go, there's somebody important, they will hide the car, or they, I mean, this is pretty interesting, this thing that they've been doing for the last 3 weeks. I'm gonna try to describe it, okay? It's a bit hard to describe, but imagine that I'm driving through a street, okay? And it has, say, a row of vehicles, or there's houses on my left-hand side, and there's cars parked in the driveways, okay? And I'm driving and scanning the cars. So they will drive a vehicle coming on the opposite direction, and they time it so it basically blocks the view of the camera right in front of the the top dog in that street. So if there's somebody that is really important, like a VIP, I don't know, like it would be like a director. I don't know, like if we put it in corporate scale, I imagine it would be like a director, a local director. So they send a vehicle, timing it, so when I pass in front of the house, the vehicle is right at that place. But of course, I know, because I have the database, I know that there's an important person that lives in the house that has been paid millions. Obviously, systematically, my system tells me. Like, in fact, I'm driving on that street to scan that house, and I see intentionality. I see that I'm looking for that house, and the other car comes in the other direction and it passes at the exact moment when I'm passing in front of that house. So I have to stop my vehicle, go back, and scan the plate. So they've been doing that for a while. So anyhow, risking to say the obvious, the reason why I asked them to give this task to their wives is because I'm taking that page from their playbook. So anyhow, I'm relying on the 5 women driving around all day when they get, well, not all day, but when they get to drive, right? With those cameras that at the end are working for me. And I'm using that footage to detect neighborhoods, right? And my system detected impressive statistical anomalies in this neighborhood that I was scanning yesterday. That's why I went there. And probably this is a good point. I'm going to show you, okay? I'm going to show you a little bit where I was working. Okay. So my house is 26714 Valleyside Drive, Katy, Texas, 77494, which is this one. And the place that the neighborhood that I was looking at is this neighborhood over here, okay? This is an interesting neighborhood for multiple reasons, but I haven't gone there for a long time, particularly because that's where I used to run with Penelope Suarez, exactly that place. And, you know, because of everything that happened with her and what she did, and I don't have good feelings about that place. Let's put it that way. So I try to not go there, but I went because of the statistical anomalies that I saw in the footage that I got from these 5 drivers that I have now scanning organically, right, as they do their regular spy work or scanning houses and plates for me. Okay, so this is the park, okay? This is the neighborhood in question. So before we go there, let me show you this. If you go to the YouTube channel, the Call Mobile channel, I posted a post today about this. Yeah, so this man, okay? I have a few photos of him. So what happened yesterday when I was scanning that neighborhood, exactly, let me tell you where, here. So when I was at this point, which is 29.72040 minus 95.82447, a man driving a white Audi compact SUV, and the photos and the plate and everything, and even the photos of the man are posted in the channel. He came from this corner to block the view of my camera, and then he started following me. And in this post, there are pointers to the actual video with the FBI reference and the timestamp of the segment. So he followed me basically for almost 5 minutes. Okay, and you can see this is a very narrow area. Like it's an area full of sharp turns, and it's only two lanes, one on each direction. And he was following me through all this area for like 5 minutes, like right behind, telling me I would do things like stop the car, and he would pass next to me, and then I would do a U-turn, and then he would do a U-turn, and started following me again. Like he did this for 5 minutes. So at some point, I did this thing where I stopped, turn around, and I basically went to a cul-de-sac, and I stopped my car here at this specific place, thinking that now he cannot follow me, he cannot keep harassing me that way or stalking me. He was stalking me, really, because it's a dead-end street. But he came to that street, and then he parked his car next to me, and he was ready to get out of the car. So I felt threatened. I mean, this man is following me for 5, 6 minutes, and then his car's next to me and tries to get out of the car. I left, and I stopped scanning the neighborhood. But anyhow, I'm mentioning him more than because I don't care about the harassment and the stalking, but more because this morning I went there because I wanted to continue doing the work that I was doing yesterday on public roads. I'm not committing any crimes or offending anybody. This is a public road. And if he doesn't like it, he has to move to a gated community with field denning if he qualifies for that level in the organization. So anyhow, I went there again this morning to continue where I left off, and I saw the car parked at this house. So I imagine that's his house. 27806 Cenizo Park Court. Okay. And this house is interesting because of many things. Look at this. First, on the back is protected by the school. So the school, this huge school, is a buffer zone. Okay. The second thing that I noticed is that it has on the street view photo a particular type of vehicle. And we've seen this before when these things encode meaning, like when they put on the street view photos of a property, for example, yes, that has a meaning. So I'm thinking this could be that. Also, his address ends in 06, which we know it's intelligence. And his house is marked in the geo-index of Elon Musk, and I put a link in here. You can check it out. He has crypto payments. So he's a prominent agent, probably intelligence. And the fact that he's protected with that huge buffer zone tells me that he's important, right? Maybe that's why he felt confident stalking me like that, because he felt that Diosdado Cabello would protect him. So maybe he has a line of communication with Diosdado Cabello. I don't know, because he seemed pretty confident in what he was doing. Like most agents, they run away from the camera. But this guy, he came running towards the camera, right? So anyhow, and also the shape of the backyard is the trapezoid shape that we've seen before. So he could be prominent, okay? Now, but I'm not mentioning him for that. I'm mentioning because his name, the name registered with the house is somebody called supposedly Jones Douglas B, okay? Which sounds like an American name or non-Venezuelan, but I saw him personally, like in person, right? When he was about to get out of the car, and he looked very much like Luis Martinez, like that other prominent Venezuelan SEBIN agent that we've talked about before. Physically, he looked like that. Like, if I was to guess, I would say this man is Venezuelan. Like, and it's an educated guess. I was born in Venezuela and I lived there for 20 years. So when I see a Venezuelan, I know that they're probably Venezuelan. I'm saying this because if this name is fake, if Jones Douglas B is not his real name and it's an alias that was produced by the SAIME, the Venezuelan Identity Authority that issues these fake identities so they can commit crimes, it could tie this man not only to Diosdado Cabello, but also to the director of the SAIME, who has been reported before. And I mentioned him as fundamental piece of this technology to work, because that's how they give all these identities, fake identities, to all these agents, by producing fake IDs. So it could be traceable to that if he's Venezuelan. Okay, I'm guessing because of the way he looks. And I know one should not make those kind of inferences, but I was born in that country. I know how people look, and he looks like that. So that's why I'm mentioning, because maybe if all this can be verified, maybe he could pose serious liability to Diosdado Cabello and to the guy that produces the fake identities in Venezuela. Okay, so that's why I wanted to mention him. Now, back to the technical topic that we were talking about. At this point, I think I need to give you like a quick, I will call it a primer on search, okay? On search technologies. And what I'm going to say is really principles about information retrieval. It's not specifically search, but it's used in search, okay? And I'm going to explain this because it will allow you to see why I think these people are from Google, the architects of this. So basically, in these distributed information retrieval systems like Google Search or Yahoo Search, I'm not talking anything specific about Google. I'm talking about generic technical concepts, okay? So this is not proprietary of anybody. This is just public knowledge. So these systems work by scoring entities. Scoring means giving points to an entity, okay? And this is exactly the same thing that I do in Key Opinion Leaders, and of course, because I'm using Key Opinion Leaders for this, that I do to the cars, to the agents. All my models are trained based on this principle, okay? Which is a scoring based on a multidimensional scorer, it's called. So the idea is you have a corpus. A corpus is a collection of entities, okay? For example, my corpus could be, I have a corpus of cars. I have another corpus of faces. I have another corpus of houses. So Google has a corpus of web pages. That's how Google search operates. So in the case of a search engine that allows you to search on web pages, they would have a corpus of web pages, and they would score, when you enter a query, they would score each web page for that query. So the score is not tied to the entity, to the web page, but it's tied to the query and entity pair. So you would score different dimensions, like, for example, how many hits you find in the body. Hits meaning of the words that were in the query, how many times you found each word in the body of the document. How many title hits, that means how many times you found each word in the query in the title of the document. Anchor hits means, how many times you found each word in the query in the anchor text, in the links that are pointing to that document from other web pages, right? And that's how the scoring system works. And at the end, you sum or you combine all these dimensional scores together into a single score, and then you rank the pages by a score, decreasing. And the ones with the highest score are the ones that end up in the first page. That's the gist of it. Mentioning all this, because in this hit counting mechanism, it's a crucial piece, how you count the hits. And that's called hit counter. And to count the hits in general, in these retrieval systems, what you look for is basically two things. And this is the part that is important. This is the part that I want to get your attention to, is unigrams and bigrams. So unigrams are a word, like a single word, like Rinaldo. That's a unigram. Now, a bigram, in languages that separate unigrams by spaces, this is not all the languages have these properties. Like, for example, in Chinese, they use pictograms. So each pictogram has its own meaning, and it could be, if you translate it to a Western language, it could encompass multiple unigrams or multiple bigrams. So, but let's forget about that complication for a second. Let's focus only on languages that use spaces as separators. So a unigram is a single word, a bigram is 2 words, okay? Now, that's the important thing. And in all these retrieval systems, when you compute the scores, and this is common knowledge, like everybody knows this, like a unigram hit is worth less than a bigram hit. And this is universal. This is in Yahoo, in Google, in Bing, everywhere is the same. And then if you think about it, it makes sense from an information retrieval point of view, because the probability of encountering 2 unigrams together separated by a space, right, in a text, is the multiplication of the probability of encountering each unigram separately, and then divided by another factor to account for the fact that they're actually together. So if you encounter these 2 unigrams together, one next to the other, it's an incredible coincidence, unless these 2 things are really tied together. And when you find them together, well, that gives a lot of topicality or relevance to that document for that query. So that concept makes sense intuitively, okay? What I'm trying to say is that the bigram hits are rare and are important, okay, in information retrieval. When you find 2 words together, that is an important signal, okay? And this is the revelation I had this morning. So, well, I found this through statistics, using the footage from the 5 female agents that I now have. I also have my own female agents now that I flipped. I'm sorry, I think I didn't mention how I flipped them. I offered them 1% stock to each one of the couples that are now helping me. Yes. So bigrams. So bigrams are super important. Okay. So statistically, what drove me to that neighborhood was that the statistical anomaly that was found by the system on the footage gathered by, because I haven't driven on that neighborhood in more than a year, right? I haven't been there. But because I have now this footage, it was picked up that there was a lot of houses in that neighborhood that the license plates of the cars parked in the driveway had what I've called before the consecutive numbers mistake, or the numbered series mistake. That's the name. Let me see if I can find it, because I have a post about that and it will show what I mean. So if you go to the spybusters.com/evidence and you do Control F and look for WDJ, you will find a series of posts. There's 2 of them in which I was talking about cars that have this prefix WDJ. And this came from one time that I was parked at a hotel. I was seeing Marcel, my son, after I was able to see him after those 50 days that they had him completely kidnapped, that they didn't want to tell me where he was. So I went to a hotel to see him because that was the only way I could see him. And Diosdado Cabello parked these 2 surveillance cars in front of my car. And the anomaly was that the 2 of them had the same plates, like a 4 characters match on the prefix. You see WDJ9, WDJ9. And in this post, I compute the probability of that being a random occurrence. And I don't recall what it was, but it was like 4 in 10 million or something like that. Like, this wasn't random. Like, these cars are designed. Like, these are surveillance vehicles. And I've known this for a while, but I didn't have evidence or really the full understanding of how it works. I mean, I know that those characters, and I've known this for a while, that those characters encode a meaning, okay? It's not like they randomly pick them, but they encode a meaning, okay? And there's another post from September last year, 2024, in which I went to visit the house of pilot Delahanty, who is a pilot in a company that operates planes for the Venezuelan government and has flown planes to the Orchila, a military island in Venezuela, near Venezuela. So I went to his house and he had 2 cars parked outside, and the cars had consecutive license plates, meaning 5 characters prefix match. 5 characters were equal in the 2 cars parked outside his house, Moscow style. And this is recorded in video. When I passed next to the cars, it was last year, I didn't have the geo index back then. But when I saw the cars, I said, well, these people are stupid. I mean, they don't, I mean, this is so obvious. I understand now, it's not that they're stupid, it's that they're encoding meaning. They're encoding meaning into the license plate and the color of the car. So the combination of certain things in the license plate and the color of the car, that thing, that combination encodes the meaning. And at this point, I can tell you what is the mechanism, because I found it using the pipeline. The pipeline found it using the footage from the 5 women driving around. And this is the thing with this kind of systems, like the more data the system has, the deeper inferences it can drive. Like if I hadn't had these 5 women driving around, this would have never been found. So the way it works is that they encode the meaning in bigrams. And that's why I'm saying that these people are Googlers. It's exactly a retrieval system like Muppet. It's a copy of Muppet. So this is the second thing I find, that it's a copy of the deep principle of functioning of Muppet, which is the most fundamental infrastructure of Google search. The unigrams in the license plate are the individual characters. So in that case, in this photo that you're seeing, the bigram is WD. So all the plates, well, not all the plates, but plates in this area, right, in Katy, Texas, that contain the characters WD together, those vehicles have something in common, or the operators of those vehicles have something in common. So the WD together, that bigram is the encoding, the encoded string is the WD. Also, I understood that they also use reverse bigrams. So in Google, they have this concept of a reverse bigram, which carries a little bit less weight than a full bigram, like in order bigram. Okay, so there's 4 types of bigram matches at Google. And I'm mentioning this because I'm guessing that you will find them in these plates as well. And the same scoring weight that they gave to each type at Google, I'm guessing they gave it here. That's why I'm telling you this, okay? So there's 4 types of bigram matches. Full in order bigram match. That is when the 2 characters match the query. I mean, the two unigrams. A bigram is composed by 2 unigrams, okay? So in this case, each letter, I'm treating them as unigrams, okay? So full in order bigram match is when the 2 unigrams are together and in the same order. There's full out of order bigram match. This is when the 2 unigrams are in order, so W appears before D, but there is something in the middle. They're not together. That carries less weight in ranking. There's also reverse bigram, which is that the unigrams are reversed, like in English. If you look for Model 3, like the Tesla Model 3, if you type model space 3, the 2 unigrams are model and 3. So model 3 would be full in order, but 3 model would be a reversed bigram. And you see how it makes sense that it carries less weight, because if you search for 3 model, you probably won't get any Tesla pages, hits. There's also, so you have full in order, reverse in order. This is I'm giving you the order of importance, okay? Full in order is the best possible match. Then you have reverse in order is second. Then you have full out of order, meaning the 2 unigrams are present, but there is something in the middle. And then the least good for scoring purposes is reverse out of order, okay? So maybe I will open a page here. If I type, so that example is the WDG. So I'm just gonna make some examples here. So this would be a full bigram match for the query WD, okay? WD, okay? If I make it reverse, it could be the, for example, DWG. And if I make it out of order, it would be WGD. Also important to mention, right? because they're thinking planet scale. This probably applies to all the plates in all the world. Like they're not going to have different scorers to score plates from Texas and another scorer for Venezuela. All the plates have something in common all around the world, is that they're composed by something between 7 or 6 or 5, I don't know, to 10 characters. Characters meaning letters and numbers. I guess what I'm trying to say is that they're treating, I'm guessing, they're treating the numbers as unigrams as well, not as numbers. So that 9 it's a letter, it's not a number, right? Because that way, this system will scale to the entire planet. They won't have to have, because if it wasn't that way, and you go to a different country where the license plates, for example, don't have numbers, but all letters, then the scorer wouldn't work. And then they will have to create a new scorer. Right? That doesn't scale organizationally. So I guess what I'm saying is that they're treating the numbers as letters, okay, as unigrams. Yes. So in this area that I was started working on it yesterday, and I had to stop because they sent this stalker, and then I continued this morning when everybody was sleeping. The system picked up before I went there that there's at least 10 of these houses with 2 cars parked in the driveway that have license plates that the system thought were serious, but they're not serious. What they have in common is that they have the bigram matches, okay? But now it gets more interesting, because what I was thinking before that was a series, like for example, this WDJ9, okay? I thought it was a prefix match because I Googled, that's also a thing. Like the prefix matches are worth more, okay? But my theory at this point is that this is not a prefix match. It's actually 2 bigram matches. It's WD together at J9 together, or DJ. So those 2 bigram matches. And what this tells me is that they're encoding into these vehicles of these agents 2 important pieces of information instead of 1. That makes the agent more prominent in my book. Like if you have a need to encode more information into this person than you're doing for because you cannot do this for everybody, because then all the cards would be prefixes of others. So you can only do this for, it's like if you look at web pages. That's the reason why. Remember what I said at the beginning, bigrams are rare. That was the first thing I said. This is rare. So this is not something that you can do indiscriminately across the board, because then everybody would have the bigram matches, and then the score would be irrelevant. It won't tell you anything. If all the cards have this property, then there's no information to be extracted from it, right? The rarity correlates with how good the marker is, right? I guess what I'm trying to say is that these things that seemed like a prefix to me before are really series of bigram matches. So for example, Delahanty, he had 3 bigram matches. That's why the cards had 5 characters in common, because 2, 2, and 2, right? So they were creating 1 bigram match here, 1 bigram match between the second and the third character, and 1 bigram match between the third and the fourth character, right? That's why that produced that series that was so long, right? Which was what caught my attention that day, even before having the database. So the more bigram matches, the same as Google. In Google, what we did is to count the bigram matches and sum them up. If you have more, then your score is higher for that query. It's the same here. And I can tell you, right, now that I understand the mechanism, I can see it now, I recognize the bigram matches. I can tell you, in my street, there's 2 houses that have known bigram matches. And I'm going to tell you which ones those are. I'm sorry if I'm getting too excited. It's just when I talk about search, it's when you talk about something that you love. you may appear crazy. So this guy over here at 26722, and he's an agent, and in 2023, like there were like at least a dozen incidents he trying to spy, and like he's Indian and he's about my age, I think. And so he has 2 cars parked outside of his home on his driveway. And I think I have to run this through the pipeline. Like what I'm telling you is from visual observation. I think that he has the 2 cars, both have the same Bigram, but in reverse order. One is HR and the other one is RH, or something like that. HK and KH, something like that. But he has the Bigram matches, but one is reversed. So he has that. And also the 26707, the white Tesla that they have, the plate starts with SY, which is a known Bigram for me at this point. Like I've seen, now that I know how they do it, I know. So, and I will give you a list of bigrams, right? But for example, to open your appetite to this idea, I'll give you 2 observations of today. So one is near a street called Emily Forest. Let's look it up. So this one, I think, is this house over here. Again, I have to run it through the pipeline. Yeah, this house. So it had 2 vehicles. Both were Nissan compact vehicles like this one. And one was R as in Robert, T as in Tango, J as in January, 6155. And the other one was RTJ 6154. So they're consecutive, but my theory is that these are really 4 Bigram matches. So RTJ615, 3 Bigram matches could be 3 Bigram. 4 I think would be too much. We could construct with this sequence a 4 Bigram match, but I mean that would be like an overkill. If they really did that, they're silly. It could be a 3 Bigram match where the Bigrams are RT, J6, 5 would be the other Bigram. So in this house, these 2 vehicles with these license plates that seem consecutive, and the 2 cars are of different years, different models, were there. Also, this is interesting. In another house in this area, there were 2 vehicles in the same driveway, and they are J as in January, T as in Tango, J as in January, 1321. All of these are Texas plates, by the way. And the second vehicle was TJG as in Golf, 7277. So here, the Bigram match is T as in Tango, J as in January. Okay. So that's how they encode the meaning. And of course, the color of the car also encodes meaning. I think white is surveillance, like communications, like the ones that they use to extract audio from the bugs, for example. Those are white. That's why Penelope Suarez, every time she came to this house, she was always looking to see where was the white car parked, because they change it. Like it's not, sometimes they use the one from the Salt Typhoon house at 26707, but sometimes they use another white car and they park it somewhere else. So that's why she was always looking. I saw it like when we turned on the street, she would always be on the look, like visually, like I could see her eyes and then fixating on the white vehicle. So that's how they do it. Yeah, but so this is super interesting because what it means, right, is that this cars network, vehicles network, it's a system designed with this very fundamental concept of Bigram matches, that it's a fundamental piece in many search engines, particularly in Google and in Muppet specifically. So this is the second time that I find something very deeply rooted into the system that I can trace back to Muppet. And that's why I was saying that be careful if Michael Schupper is not part of the technical team that designed this, because I remember having these conversations on a whiteboard with Michael about how to optimize Bigram matches and things like that, because I was working on that. And he would ask me questions because he wasn't writing the code. He was a manager, I was an engineer, so I was actually writing the code. I was the one who went deep into Muppet to understand how it worked. And he would ask me questions to share it with the rest of the team, and I imagine with eBay. So I remember those conversations, and this seems like a fundamental thing. So in this area that I scanned today, and the videos are uploading, they're going to be ready they're going to be available to you in like 30 minutes. You will find at least 10 of these instances in those neighborhoods that I scanned today. Also, maybe relevant. Yeah, let me tell you this. So in this area, right, that I'm talking about, this is the park when I was running. The park where I was running with Penelope, right, back in the days. Yeah, this park has the water tank marker, and these houses on these two streets are important. Harmony Mill Court, which reminds me of that Harmony. There's another street called Harmony, which is where I found the Scotland truck that I think belongs to David Molero or Goldman Sachs, really. The street was also called Harmony. Could be that Harmony means something special in this network. Yeah, Harmony Shores. So that truck was parked somewhere around here. Harmony Shores. 26922. Harmony Mill, but it doesn't have any ending on 22. Interesting. Okay. So, but back to the topic. On this neighborhood, I basically scanned all these. Oh, the other thing I wanted to tell you. So I used to run with Penelope here, and basically what we would run was from this point. It's kind of an elongated circle, right, to this point, and then we will turn around and do another round, and we will do multiple circles like that. And when I did that, they always intercepted me in this place where I had to cross, right? And by the way, Penelope was the one who picked this place to run. What I wanted to mention is that when we were doing this, right, and we did the turn here, on this house repeatedly, there was always a law enforcement vehicle. I don't know, from that distance, I couldn't tell if it was like sheriff or I couldn't tell what it was, but there was always a sheriff vehicle or a law enforcement vehicle. It was a police car that used to park on this driveway in the exact moment that we were running. And I'm talking about something that happened 3 years ago. At the exact moment when we turn in here, then the vehicle will come and park in this driveway. And speaking of police vehicles, they're in that neighborhood today, and you will see it in the footage that I'm uploading, that in this neighborhood, there was a police car. It looks like a police car. It's like, imagine a police patrol car from the 90s. It's a very old, beaten up car, okay? But it looks like one of, I don't know what was the brand of those cars, Lincoln, I don't know. You will see it in the footage, you will recognize it. And it has a searchlight on the left-hand side. That vehicle, because it's so distinctive, I remember seeing that vehicle parked at a hotel around here. This hotel, the True by Hilton, right? So that police car, and I'm mentioning this maybe if law enforcement ever sees this video, maybe they can check the footage. So this is interesting. Like, and I noticed this before in the website. They moved the pointer of this True by Hilton hotel, and Hilton hotels, the chain is super flagged, and the Marriott and Wyndham as well. So they control all those hotels. I know that. But see that they moved the marker, and the marker for the True Hilton is in this empty lot. That's not where the hotel is. The hotel is actually here. So they moved the marker a long time ago, like months ago, in MapFacts in Google to hide the hotel from the pipeline. So that police car that you will see in the footage today, which was parked in one of the most protected streets in this neighborhood, the best possible protection against everything. In that house, there was this white police car, old model, beaten up, without police markings, but it looks like a police car. And it was always parked in this hotel when I passed on this street or when I visited this area. It was always parked here. And it should be visible in the footage of the security cameras of this hotel. So also wanted to mention today, while I was doing this project, there were 3 walk dockers that intercepted me. I'm going to tell you exactly where. They're in the recordings, but I'll tell you exactly where they intercepted me. Yes. So there is this small park over here. And I parked my truck in this driveway. The gate was closed, so I parked my truck here to like replace the batteries of the cameras and things like that. And then one dog walker came from this direction, and when he passed exactly in front of my vehicle, he marked the location on his phone, like he pressed the button. And then there was a woman that was running, an African American, and she marked my location, the same thing. Exactly at the moment that my car was aligned with her, she marked something with her watch. And she was about here. And then after I scanned some of these houses, another runner, a Caucasian woman this time, she was running on this direction. And when I passed next to her around here, she marked my location. Okay. Then I did a U-turn, and then she did a U-turn to do the same thing again. And when I passed next to her, again, she marked my location a second time. And all this is recorded in camera, in the footage. So yeah, so they're tracking me now with pedestrians. Maybe the incident yesterday, maybe something happened that I don't know that made them scared of what happened yesterday, or something that happened after what happened yesterday. Because I saw change today. Like today, they weren't following me with vehicles, any vehicles really, only like 1 or 2 across 2 hours, while before I was seeing 150 vehicles per hour. But I saw these three walkers or runners marking my location at the exact moment that I passed next to them. And they're recorded in the cameras. So that's why I'm mentioning that. Yeah, so I think those are the big updates that I had for today. But the finding of the bigrams as an encoder, I think it's going to be a game changer, because this is a planet scale system. And now, probably, if this is verified, I'm guessing that we could start decoding, and that's what I'm going to start working on, decoding the meaning of the bigrams, right? Because it's easy to tell. I mean, these people have, although their identities are fake, they have assumed identities in society. They work in a particular place, and they have a particular type of, they're in a particular line of work. They have a particular ethnicity. Another bigram. So I'm going to give you other bigrams that are well known. VN, Venezuela, Nicole. And I believe that's directly tied to Diosdado Cabello. I think all the vehicles that are Texas VN or NV are 7. Also, TB, Tango Bob, that bigram is also 7. It means something related to Venezuela, to Diosdado Cabello. And notable vehicles are TBH or TBD. SY, we already talked about. SN, Sam Nicole, is also a well-known bigram. So yeah, I mean, after we decode the meaning, all these vehicles are going to be recognizable in the entire planet, and they can't change the registrations in the entire world. I mean, there are records. These are physical items in the real world that are tied to computerized records. They're doomed. So I think that could be like a nuclear weapon, basically. Well, I hope you find this useful, and I'm going to keep thinking about these things, okay? But before I leave, and this is the mind-blowing thought that I had and this is why I started this session saying, recalling that post that I wrote, where I wrote that the world needs more artists and less Elon Musk's and Travis Kalanick's. The thought is that they're obviously, I mean, this criminal network, and in particular, I'm not going to talk so much about the criminal network itself, but about the geopolitics behind it. So it seems obvious to me at this point, looking at all this, that people like Xi Jinping see software engineering as a weapon. So think about it for a moment. Like, if you are a country, let's not put a name to it, but, and this you can see it back in history even. Like, if you look back in history, when humans discovered that they could build vessels to float on the water, they started fishing with the vessels. But then somebody had the idea to mount a cannon on top of a vessel, and they created a warship, or a primitive, or the predecessor of a warship, okay? What happened next? Well, they started building navies, right? After they identified that they could turn this vessel into a warship, the next logical step is to build navies, to create this, to mass produce them, right? When atomic reactions were uncovered by humans, and they discovered that they could produce energy from atoms, what is that happened next? Somebody had the idea to create a weapon out of that. And after that happened, what happened next? Atomic proliferation. Different countries started creating them en masse. Where I'm going with this is that since they realized that they can use technology as a weapon to enslave all of us, the next logical step is to create an army of software developers. And I'm guessing, I don't have visibility into China's educational programs, but I'm guessing that that's what they're doing. They're creating an army of software engineers to fight that battle with that for the next 50 years. And in the Western world, we're not doing that. We're not prioritizing software engineering in our education systems. So we're in a situation in which the adversary is creating an army, and probably already has an army. And that's why you see the IT industry in the US dominated by Chinese, Russian, and Indian engineers. And there's practically no Americans or Hispanics in Google. I can tell you that because I worked there. Everybody was Indian, Chinese, or Russian. I was in Google search, I think I was the only one that was Hispanic, not even Venezuelan, but Hispanic. This was Alvaro Gutierrez, but he wasn't really, I mean, he was basically born and I mean, I think he was born in Caracas, but he came here like when he was like 1 year old, right? But besides Alvaro, I think I was the only Hispanic. And that's the reason, is because it's a weapon. The software engineering, and the software engineers are the soldiers that they're creating. And so we're in a situation in which the adversary has an army and we don't have an army. That's why when I realized this morning, when I saw the diagrams, I realized that intuition that I had when I said, you need to combine the FBI with people from Google search. That's what it meant, is that you need an army of software engineers to fight this. And you will need it for the next 50 or 100 years. And we better start creating it now, because if we don't, they are going to enslave us all with this. It's inevitable. Even if we dismantle this network today, if they have 100 times more software engineers than the rest of the world, they will do it again in a more sophisticated way. So it's a terrifying thought, really. Think about it. Well, thank you so much for your time. And I don't mean to scare you, but I think it's a conversation that needs to happen. Like how do our educational systems adapt to this? Because it's a weapon. Like while the entire planet is busy training soldiers on how to fire guns, they're training their soldiers on how to write code. They're fighting a completely different battle, and we don't even know it. Well, thank you for your time. Till the next one.